Welcome, everybody, to today's Pro Spotlight. While we wait for everybody to get situated, get settled, why don't you pop into the Zoom meeting chat and let us know where you guys are joining us from? Where are you guys joining us from? Let us know in the meeting chat. We've got Joel from Dallas. We got Amarillo, Texas, Tampa, Florida, New Zealand. We're going international. Alberta, we got some of our Canadians for our Canadian presenter today. South Carolina, Iowa, North Carolina, Portland, my old stomping grounds. Man, we have gone coast to coast already. Carolina to California, Canada to down in Texas, and then internationally. I love it. Love it, Bend, Oregon. Love it, Seattle, Minnesota. Love it. Well, welcome everybody. If you don't know who I am, my name is Casey Taylor. I'm a customer training specialist here at JobTread. And it is my pleasure to be able to be a part of training you, whether you've come to one of our boot camps, whether you've come to one of our live trainings through our help desk, or if you've looked at any of our resources on our help desk. I will be one of the faces that you will have seen. And I'm excited to also be the host for our Pro Spotlights. If you're not familiar with our Pro Spotlights, these are some of our incredible Connect conference presenters who we've invited back to share their Connect conference presentations with you from their education sessions so that you can gain and glean some of the insights that they shared at the conference with our other users, because our goal isn't to sort of paywall those for people that can't make it. We do want you to have good information. And so we have invited some of our incredible users back on the spotlight to allow them the opportunity to get to share. So today is no different. But these things are the things that make this a special community. And so we're really excited to have Felipe here today to be able to share because of what he's already offering the community, but what you will learn from him and hopefully what will prompt you to continue that sort of cycle of sharing, learning and sharing, learning and sharing, so that your businesses can grow and that this software can really help you, not just the software, but the community. And so Felipe Freig is the founder of Versa Homes out of Langley, British Columbia, up in Canada. And if you're unfamiliar with who he is, he's got an incredible social media presence that you'll want to learn about. But also you have the opportunity, even within our JobTread ecosystem, to learn a little bit more about his journey. He was actually a guest on our Builder Stories podcast, episode 20. Where he presented that that's not a failure, that is a lesson. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that link into the chat for you guys to come back and review at a later point so that you can really learn more about his business, learn more about his journey. But he and Versa Homes have been with us as customers since April of 2023, and we're really excited to have him. I think you guys are really going to find his presentation style compelling and what he has to say really pertinent. Especially if you're me. We already talked a little bit about it, but the way that he does business is a lot of the ways that we like to train here. But a couple ground rules before we get started, and I toss it over to Felipe. We have two specific boxes for communication. The chat box, where you've already told me where you guys are from, that box is going to be for engagement with Felipe. He's going to ask you questions. He might ask you, hey, are you going to like this? Are you going to like this? Or, hey, what do you guys think about this? And that's really what that chat box is for. The Q&A, however, a separate box. If you have any questions throughout today's presentation, pop them there, and we will try and have a whole Q&A section at the end where you can just ask questions, ask follow-up questions so that he can get through his presentation, but we can also give you some space to have your questions answered and sort of a little bit of back and forth. But he's already going to do some back and forth. Just he'll ask you questions. That's going to be in the chat, okay? His presentation today is titled The Secret to Fixed Priced Profitability with JobTread. So please, everybody, take a look at this video, and then we're going to hear from Felipe.
My name is Noor. Welcome to
How you doing,
Langley
Noor?
Chrysler.
Just looking at this truck here. What's the price?
Probably more than $100,000.
Nice door handle. How much you pay for the door handle?
No idea.
How much was the steering wheel?
It comes with the truck.
But how much did you pay for it?
This is very, very weird question.
Who put the engine in on this? But I just want to know what all this costs before I buy it. And I know I can get these lights for cheaper. I know where I can save a bit here. And they sell these on Amazon for way cheaper. So if I order the truck, can I get it without these and I get my buddy to put them in? What about this little front end camera here?
Yeah.
I can get my own. My friend can put those in. I'd probably save some money on that. You still give me warranty with this whole truck, right? Like if I put the engine in. Would it be okay if when we order the truck, we order without the windshield and then my friend can put it in? So if I get my own engine and my own stereo, and maybe I could probably get the tailgate stickers myself. I'm just trying to save some money here.
You're not.
What do you mean I'm not? If I'm getting my guys that are paid cheaper to put the stuff in, why would I buy the whole truck from you? And I do want the full warranty. Deal?
You don't buy a truck based on the dealership's internal cost. You buy it based on value, the results, and the price on the window. So here's the real question. When did we as builders start pricing homes like we're being audited? Somewhere along the way, clients got trained to believe that building a home means seeing every line item, every supplier cost, and every trade invoice, even though they've never run a construction company in their life. That's not transparency, that's confusion, and confusion is expensive. Fixed price is how the world buys everything. So why are builders the only ones expected to open up their books? Just to do their job? Today, we're taking that back. Let's build it right, let's price it right, and let's talk about how we can do it using JobTread.
All right, guys, I saw the chat. There was no sound. I want to see if you guys can hear me. Can you write in the chat if you can hear me? Awesome. Right on, guys. Listen, what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab this video. I'm going to see if JobTread can send it to all you guys so you can rewatch it and understand it a little better. But hey, we've all had that client. Can you imagine shopping like that on a daily, asking people to break down their cost? That's how us builders get treated. Would you walk into Home Depot and ask the sales guy to break down the cost of a chop saw or a skill saw? Can you imagine walking in there and say, hey, how much was the blade? What did it cost for the technician to put that together? That is baloney. Guys, my name is Felipe. I run a company called Versa Homes. I also coach builders and trades, run a better business. And today I'll be speaking about how to build a fixed price with JobTread. First, I want to find out who here in the chat is doing Cost Plus. I want to hear it. Write in the chat who's doing Cost Plus. I got one guy, two guys, three. I do both. Nope. The only way. Ooh, we got a guy that says it's the only way. I like that. Love it. All right, who's doing fixed price? I want to hear who's doing fixed price. Look at these guys. Fixed price only. Fixed price only. That's the way. Cost plus. Wow, we got a half and half here. I love it. This is awesome. How many of you have a client that questions every single line item? And I'm sure you cost plus guys are going to tell me that they question every single line item. There you go. See? Who here has those crazy, crazy clients that questions everything? There you go. How many of you have clients, I want to hear in the chat, that questions your markup? This is huge. Some of you show a little markup and then try to put it on the cost side of things so the client doesn't see it all. And guys, I mean, that's what we have to do because business, you have to have your margins correct. But clients don't like those margins to run a business. So some of you are hiding it. But with the fixed price, you don't have to hide it. So what about a client that's asking you for 3 different quotes all the time? You guys know why they ask you for that? To compare. So if you don't show your line items, then they don't have anything to compare to except for the final price, right? So, all right, your clients have never run a construction company before. You know, this sets them for like negotiation, and they think everything is expensive when you show them stuff, don't they? Right? Some want to know every line item to use for price checking. So if you're showing line items, they're going to check your price. They're going to compare it to other builders. Who here has clients A and B quotes all the time and they're just going base out of price? I want to know in the chat. They will question every single thing because they just don't know, not because they don't trust you, simply because they have never seen construction financials before. All right. So now, guys, I just want to make sure that you guys write everything down because it is what's caught, not what is taught. So write it down or it is going to disappear. I promise you. All right. So before I get into it, guys, here's a little bit about me. I started as a trade in the tile world. I had my own little company. It allowed me to tour with my band. I used to be able to play music with no worries. I didn't have to ask for days off because I run my own little company, right? And then I actually got a major record deal. So I toured the States a lot, actually. I am from Canada, but you guys might have heard a while back in a band called Jet Black Stare. We toured with bands called Three Doors Down, Stain, Hinder, Shinedown, and many more. And I thought I was going to be a rock star. I made it. But the reality was I came back home from tour with only $97 in my bank account. I had to get back to work. So 2 kids later, a stay-at-home wife and a mortgage to pay off. Man, I'm telling you, I had to start renovating immediately and get my van back and running. And I had to hustle, find jobs, not understanding the business side, just knew how to do the work. I asked around, what do contractors charge? All I heard was cost plus 10, cost plus 15. So off I went. I got a lot of jobs until my accountant said, hey, the good news was I doubled my revenue. I was like, well, that's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, but you are a non-profit organization. So you know what you have to do? You got to raise your prices. I was like, nobody's going to hire me if I raise my prices, you know? So immediately I figured out and they taught me that fixed price is the way to go. Today, guys, we build a $13 to $14 million a year company with a $2.5 million net profit last year. And that's after I pay myself $400,000 a year. So I'm telling you, fixed price works and it works well for those guys that don't believe it does. All right. So we're going to talk about 3 messages today that I want to really focus on. And one is a lump sum pricing fixed price. Okay. A lot of you are doing fixed price and you think that you have to show every line item still. You don't. You have to show one lump sum fixed price. Don't show the clients your line items. Number 2, you have to estimate to protect your profit using JobTread. And that's what I really want to get into, how to make sure that you protect your profit and you price everything correctly. It's all about process, scope of work, P&L. We're going to talk about how important that is and tracking your job on JobTread because profit is planned. It's not a leftover. And if you guys are just hoping for a good profit, you're not doing it right. All right. So yeah, we're going to talk about JobTread and how to control your margins and track your costs on there. All right. Those are the 3 things I want to focus on today. So do you guys remember when you started? Why would you show the financials to the client and expect them to understand them immediately when it took you a long time to understand them? Some of you still don't know your financials. So what makes you think that if you show the client a full budget with all your numbers in there, with all your markups and all the costs that are in there, that they're going to immediately understand them if some of you still don't understand them, and a lot of you took you a while to get your financials correct. That's just nonsense, all right? So, okay, here in the chat, I want to know who knows their numbers here, all right? How long did it take you to understand financials? Write in the chat. I want to know. And be honest about this, because we're here to learn. We're not here to look like heroes. We can all learn from each other. Write in the chat. 10 years. Look at that. 10 years. Yes, a long time. 2 years, a year and a half, 3 years. Guys, you know how much money lost that is? That is insane. Which, hey, I'm not judging. It took me a while too. I was there. So if you're taking a long time to understand your financials, what makes you think that if you open up your books, that your clients are going to understand the financials? Nonsense. Why are we pricing this way? I have no idea. All right. Now, who knows their overhead percentage of their company? And I'm talking not a rough number. Who knows their overhead? I want to see the overhead percentages on the chat. And I'll be able to tell you if you're saying the truth or not. I want to see. 11, 9.7, that looks accurate. 5% is not accurate. 17% is not accurate. 11.3 may be accurate. 22.5 may be accurate. 15% not accurate. I'm sorry, but if you did your financials correctly and you have calculated your overhead, just so you know, it changes every month and the number changes and it's not an even number. That's just a guesstimate if you're rounding it up. All right. So, just remember, guys, they're just going to start questioning every line item. Not only they do not understand your pricing, they don't know what it takes to run a construction company. Remember, it took you a long time. They're not going to get it. All right. So the fixed price method, why it works. Okay. When you use the fixed price methodology, you can control your profit. And that's why we're here today. Cost plus does not control a profit. You don't know where you're going to end up. You can't pre-plan. A fixed price does control your profit. We all know when you're running a job site, time is money. When you run a cost plus project and clients are making decisions along the way, time is money. The only one losing is you. So if you go into cost plus and the client doesn't know their price and they keep changing things and they're looking at your quotes and they're making you pick different trades, that's all time. You know, you're losing overhead. Overhead doesn't stop, but the client stops the job by doing these kind of tactics. All right. A fixed price allows you to create a fixed schedule and ensures guaranteed profit. Remember, by fixing the price, you can also determine your scope of work and your schedule, more importantly. All right. Making timelines predictable and your profit proof. So when you make your timelines predictable, you know what you're going to profit. If your timelines are not predictable, you ain't going to profit correctly. All right. So always remember that. Key components of building a fixed price, guys. A fixed price, basically, this is a very important part of the fixed price. Understanding the key components is going to help you create a successful business. All right. In there, we'll cover trades contracts, which is very important on a fixed price. Supplier contracts. All right. We have to have those. Complete design packages by all involved. Very key for a fixed price. Takeoff software. It is crucial. I know this is a lot of work up front, but you do the work up front, then your job goes smoother. Remember that. So fixed price quotes by others, like your trades have to commit to fixed price. Understanding your P&L report is key, and we will be talking about that. Error margins, all right? We recommend 2%, but you know how good you are at estimating, so you can figure that out, and I'm happy to help you if you have questions. A profit amount that will grow your business is not a guess. Remember that, guys. If you're running a business, you have to know your profitability. That way you can plan to grow your business properly. That is a huge, huge thing. So now let's break those down. Okay. Contract with trades and suppliers. I'm going to show you a way to do this really, really slick on JobTread. But first, let's try to break this down for you. Trades, they have to commit to a fixed price or they don't work for you. Trust me when I tell you they want the job. And if they don't want it, they can just go work for somebody else. All right. Now, trades must commit to fixed timelines as well, not just a fixed price, a guaranteed delivery. Ask how long and lock it in. And that's what we're going to talk about in the schedule section. All right. Plans always win. Have you ever had, I want to see in the chat, who's had a trade come in and say, hey, listen, that wasn't included in my quote. Let that sink in. Who's had that? Well, if you give them a good scope of work and in your contract with your trades, you put in there that the plans always win, guess what? Doesn't matter what they put in their quote. All right. Now, the other one is on fixed price, no change orders unless the client or the GC requests additional scope. So they're not allowed to give you change orders without an additional scope of work that's been approved by the GC or the client. Do not allow that. They can't just change order you because they forgot something. That's not a thing. All right. And the change orders must be approved before the work begins. No exceptions. With us, you can't do that. Now, let me talk about the price request section of JobTread. I really like it. You can nail all this down on there. When you use price requests on JobTread, I populate their scope of work on the top. Then where they fill in their number in the middle, right below that, I put in the trades agreement. All right. And the trades agreement is going to tell them all of this stuff that we talked about, that they cannot change order things, that the plans always win. And then when they sign off at the bottom on the price request, they're actually signing off on the trades agreement. So this is a really good way to make sure that every single time that you go for a price request, your trades agreement is getting signed. And why do I do it this way? Because if you get trades agreement signed by your guys early on and they work for you for 2 years, that trade agreement is now old, right? But you know that you always have to update it because things happen, you're learning more, and you're adding things to the trades agreement that maybe didn't go so well on a job site. So by having your trades agreement on the price request, that is baller. That is awesome. They're signing every time a new trades agreement has been updated. So make sure you do that and use the price request for trades agreement. That's key. All right. Let's see. Complete scope equals predictability on price. All right. So your architectural plans must be signed off. I want you to make sure you have all these things done before you price a job, which is obviously signed off by the client, the architectural plans, right? Once it's signed off, everything goes to an engineer. The engineer has to finish everything off. He has to sign off on that. Then make sure that you have your interior design completely done. Now, sometimes a couple of things are missed or a couple of things are not priced out or they haven't chosen. So you can do allowances, but you really want to minimize those allowances. You want to make sure you have all the facts, including all city requirements, before you price the job. Okay. If you don't, your numbers are going to be wrong. Simple as that. What I like to do, just so you know, for pricing, once I get the architectural plans all signed off and engineering, I start pricing the construction side. While the interior design and permits are getting done, I price all that. That way, when the interior design is complete, then I can finish off all the finishes and everything else that's left on the budget there. All right. And how do we do that, guys? You have to have takeoff software. You know, one of the really cool things I love about JobTread, I remember about, I think it was a year and a half or two ago, I called Eric and I said, Eric, you need to take off on your software. Takeoff's going to make everything different. It's going to, change the game for you. And we got talking. He literally took the computer while I was chatting with him on Zoom to the development team, and we sat there and we talked about it. And then literally within 6 months, JobTread implemented it, which was awesome. I don't think there's any other software company that treats you like that when they listen to their clients and they actually listen and give you what you're after. And that was a perfect example of listening to your clients. So with takeoff, guys, you have to create a scope of work and send it to your trades and suppliers. Make sure it's detailed. When it comes to scope of work, guys, I use ChatGPT. I tell it what I want. They spells it out. I created a GPT to make sure that my scopes of work are all created equally, that they're all laid out correctly. So I use ChatGPT, create a GPT so that it spits out your scopes of work for everybody. All right. So what I do after that, obviously, I told you to start doing the takeoff in JobTread while waiting for pricing. You know, um, I create the scopes of work and send it out to the trades and suppliers. And then after that, I start doing the takeoff. So first send everything out to your guys, price requests, and then start takeoff. I use takeoff for the products that I usually supply. So basically, I'll do concrete, I'll do rebar, excavation, my formwork, my framing, my siding, my trim material, moldings, all that kind of stuff that we purchase. I make sure that my takeoff is very accurate to allow for those products. And then I price them out. All right. But I do have a rule. Anything over $250 requires a vendor quote and a takeoff if necessary. Do not guess. Guessing does not give you a good profit, and overshooting loses you a quote. Just so you guys know, if you pad things too much, you're going to lose the job 100%. All right. So using JobTread, build a cost code list library that actually is in sequence of how you will build out your project. So if you were ever to look at my cost code list, is exactly how you would build a house. And then what do I do with that? I use the cost code as a checklist, and I remove any relevant items per job. So if I don't need, if I don't need excavation, I take it out of that list, and I only keep the items I need for that job. So my cost codes not only are for pricing, but my cost codes also work as a checklist to make sure that I don't miss anything. Right. And then always add waste where predictable. So lumber, you always have to add 10 to 15% waste. Depends how good you are measuring it up. And yeah. Now, here's an important part, guys. And this is where a lot of you miss the boat. And that's your P&L. Understand your overhead and profit, guys. Now, I want to talk about this because, there is a way of setting this up. And if you go to a regular accountant, they're going to tell you that your employees, your trucks, and all the things that you own in your company are part of overhead. Well, they're not wrong. But when it comes to pricing jobs in construction, you want to set up your P&L, basically having your staff that works on the job site, your vehicles that are for the job site, your machines that are on the job site, put them on the construction side. All right. Do not put them on overhead on your P&L. It doesn't change anything. It just gives you the right number. Guys that are working in your job site, that are your employees, and your equipment, your vehicles that are driven to the job site, your equipment, all that goes on the construction side of your P&L. It's a construction cost. That will leave anything that's office and management under the overhead. Plus everything else is an overhead, like marketing, your accounting, all that kind of stuff stays there. So why am I doing this? If you do that, guys, for example, if you use QuickBooks, there's a little toggle switch that grabs your P&Ls and turns everything into percentages instead of numbers. That will reveal your P&L and your overhead percentage. And if you update your P&L monthly, which I do, every time you quote a job, you're going to quote it correctly. All right. You have to do that. And how you do this, I'm going to tell you how you price it shortly here. But if that is correct, you're never going to suffer. A lot of you are just using a number that everybody says or a number that you think it should be. And then when that job goes for a year or two after, you're like, oh boy, why did I not make money? Probably because your overhead percentage was wrong in your estimate. All right. Now, let's think about this for a second. A lot of you guys were saying that your percentages of overhead was 22%, 15%, 13.2%. Ask yourself the question, how come you're pricing jobs at cost plus 10, cost plus 15, and many of you are using that to cover your overhead? That is crazy. You don't want to do that. All right. Now, here's a fixed price formula. Guys, it's pretty easy, right? Make your profit intentional. Don't hope for it. And the way to do that is to never copy another builder's markup. Your overhead is unique to you. All right. If you set up your construction site, like I told you, where construction costs is not just your subs and your material, it's your subs, materials, and your employees and anything on your company that you're using for that, then you can have your overhead percentage added to it. So how do you price a fixed price job? You do your actual cost of construction and everything that happens on the job site. Then from that P&L, you go and extract what is your overhead running at the moment. So if you're running at 15% overhead, you're going to put that in there. Then you're going to add an error margin because things happen, right? 2% of the job is actually quite a bit, and it'll cover you for small mistakes. Now, if you're making big mistakes, that's not a pricing problem, that's a system problem. All right. And then the profit that you want on the job. I personally put in 10 to 12% on my projects to make sure my company is profiting. And even by putting 10 to 12%, guys, because fixed price goes so quick through construction, I ended up netting 17% profit for the year. $2.5 million, sorry, $2.3 million out of $13 million. Think about that. That's clear. That stays in the company. That's after I paid everything and everyone. All right. Now, tracking your numbers on JobTread. This is key, guys. You guys have to have a system on tracking numbers. What I like to do is whenever I quote a line item, I use a price request like I told you. When I approve that price request, I upload the estimate to the file section on the budget sheet. That way is there for reference for my guys to see. When my administration is receiving an invoice, I check that invoice for legality. I check it for pricing and that it matches the original quote. If it doesn't match, send it back and tell them to adjust it. And if your contract was right, like we talked about, tell them to read the contract that nothing can be different than your original estimate. All right. Now, I have weekly budget meetings with my guys, and I actually review every line item and we check them all. And if your foreman or your staff is checking the budgets, what I've done is I did I forgot what it's called, but I customized the line item on the budget. And I did little emojis with a red circle, a green circle, and a yellow circle. All right. And what happens with that when you're looking at a budget and it's over, your foreman can go in there and hit it green. If it's a go, then that means administration can pay for the invoice. You can put it yellow as there's questions or there's an issue, and then you can review with your team in meetings. And red is completely wrong. Send it back. Administration will send the invoice back. And yeah, it's called custom fields. Thank you very much, Casey. In custom fields, you can create cool columns to trigger things. I also use custom fields to actually have line items marked if I completed the pricing or not on each one, or if it's under takeoff, or if is price has been requested. Custom fields are really cool on JobTread. All right. So if you guys have questions, I want to get into questions because this is where we learn. If you guys have a lot of questions, let's get to it and let's answer them. All right.
All right.
Let's go.
Felipe, great job. Great job. We did have a lot of questions. I said yes, but I want to go ahead and double check. The first thing that several people asked was, are you exclusively using JobTread for your takeoffs?
I'm going to say yes and no to that. So I'm using it because there's a couple little features that still need to come on to JobTread. I use Stack and JobTread and Mix, but JobTread makes it really easy and it does have all the basics you need. There's just some assembly stuff that I like to use to speed up the process, but I think JobTread is getting there no problem.
Nice. Okay. That's awesome. And again, if you guys have any follow-up questions to the questions that we throw out to Felipe, just go ahead and throw those in the Q&A and we'll field those there. I'm going to try to figure out the right way to ask this, but Renee said lump sum, no line items, not even a breakdown by cost group. She was asking, I think, in relation to something that you asked. I don't know if that's even going to make sense.
Yeah, no. Is she asking if that's all I do? Like, how do I show that? Yeah, it's easy, guys. What you have to remember is this: every single client is used to buying something for a price. So if you go to Home Depot, you grab a lawnmower, that they're looking at the price, they like it or not, right? And they take it. They don't go asking around what it costs to build this thing, how long did it take for the technician to do it. That's just not happening. And guys, I closed $10 million jobs. $10 million jobs just showing one number. Now, what you do have to have is show the one number, but part of your package is your architectural plans, your interior design, all your engineering, all your city requirements are there. So if they say, well, how do you explain what you're including? Well, everything is on the plans. So you don't even have to spell anything out. And where you guys are struggling with a fixed price, I'll tell you why it is. And this used to happen to me. You're not marketing it. All right. So back in the day when I was doing fixed price, but didn't say anything about it until my client walked into my office, half of them walked out because they didn't know I did a fixed price. I just threw it at them. But now that my marketing is completely targeted towards fixed price, the only clients I have coming in are the ones that want a fixed price. And here is a tip. You're gonna probably switch pretty quick when I tell you this. 90% of contractors are doing a cost plus. 10% or maybe even less are doing a fixed price. But about 35 to 40% want a fixed price. So ask yourself this question: whose market is bigger? Right? Think about that. Do you want to fight on the red ocean with all the cost plus guys? Or do you want to be the unique ones that do fixed price and service more clients?
Absolutely. And I think it really does come from understanding, understanding all the concepts. We did have a lot of questions about how you went about when you gave your estimate. So Paul, I think, asked, do you give a ballpark estimate? Because he says, what do you do when your client asks, how much will this cost? And you can't give them a price until you have the plans and requirements from the engineers and cities. Do you do that at the end?
Yeah, so that's a great question, actually. So this is something that a lot of builders struggle through pre-construction. Okay, you can't price something you don't see, but what you can do is create a process where you guide your client to the right price. The first thing your client needs to do is say, "Hey, listen, what is your budget? Find out a square foot price that they're willing to spend." So what happens is if you capture that client before architectural design, which that's what we do, by the way, you want to capture that client before architectural, you pull them out of the market, they're not looking for another builder. And I'll tell you in a second how I do that. But if you tell your client, what is your budget? And then you think you can build the house they want for that price, then you work with your architect and your designers to achieve that budget in the design. Never design and then get a price because the budget's never going to hit. All of you guys know. So you have to guide the client through a good process so that it hits the mark on their budget. And if you know what you're building and you know how to build, you can quickly tell the client, hey, listen, that house is going to cost you, 350 to 450 a square foot. Are you okay with that budget? Yes. Once they say, are you okay with that budget? You guys are going to be shocked. You know what I do? I said, perfect. To move forward, we're going to take a retainer. It's $100,000. I'm going to work for you for free throughout the whole pre-construction process. You're going to pay all the sub-trades that are in the pre-construction section, like the architect, designers, yourself. We don't want to make any money of that. And then when we price the job and we do the job, we'll credit that towards your project. And if you walk away, you lose your money because we got to get paid for our time. And that's what you're going to hold the client on the table. So even if your pricing is not quite working out, they don't want to lose that money. So that brings them back to the negotiating table, right? And most likely why the price is over, because they over-designed. But you as a builder have to guide that client and make sure you control the scenario. Don't send them to an architect and leave them alone. Be part of the architectural meeting to make sure they're designing the exact square footage they desired. If not, they're going to come back to you with something way crazier than you thought, and your price is going to be over.
Okay, so you you hit on something that we've had a lot of people ask questions about. A lot of people are asking questions who are remodelers, and Is your encouragement again sort of the dollar per square foot for them? Because Renee said, do you do new builds only or some remodeling? Do you charge for remodeling estimating? And then kind of partnered with that, Martin says most of the jobs that we get have no architectural plans, no design plans. So how can we accommodate for that while only showing one number and no details?
100%. So that's a great question again. Now, I come from a renovation background and I did fixed price on all of them. Never did a fixed price, just so you guys know. Now, if the clients come with no design, A, it's not your client, or B, you put them through the process. Hey, listen, if you want to spend X amount of dollars and you want to renovate your home, we got to design it to understand what you're doing to give you the right price. It is unreasonable to expect me to give you a price based on nothing, right? Even if you're looking at a job, if you walked in and they tell you what they want, you're not a guru. You have to put it on plans and you have to literally do takeoff and get pricing. Now, if you look at a job, let's say a bathroom renovation, well, those are pretty easy to tell. You can tell a client, hey, this is going to be between 50 and 60 grand because you know you've done many, right? But to be within that frame, we can only use porcelain. We can use maybe a Schluter system. You can have the glass. You can have this type of toilet. You can say that to a client. It's not hard to do. But the best way to guide a client is to put them through an awesome pre-construction process. They're going to respect you because you can say to them, listen, if you don't have a plan, if you don't have specs, I can throw you a number, but I'd be lying to you right now.
So we have a lot of questions on, obviously pricing. That's what we're here looking for. So let's see, we got that. Mim said, we're a smaller remodel company. What if our suppliers won't give us a confirmed price?
Well, then they're not your supplier. As simple as that. Do they want the job? Right? So I have a contract with my suppliers that the minute the price is approved is locked, right? And a lot of you guys, if you're getting the deposits, up front, I don't go do work and then collect. We collect and then do the work. So if you're doing a small remodel, if you want to talk about remodels, our model is 30% up front, 30 at rough in stage, and then 30 at finishing stage, and then 10% at the end, right? If you're collecting that kind of money, you can go and purchase a lot of your materials up front, especially the ones that you may think that are going to go up, right? And if it goes up a little bit, it never goes up drastically, but if it goes up a little bit, remember we talked about that 2% error margin? That should cover it. So you shouldn't have a worry about it.
Chris said, if you don't show some costs, say framing lumber package, and the project doesn't start for 6 months and lumber costs go up to 5%, how do you charge back for that increase?
Right. So that's a great question. I don't. So if a project's going to start, you price it, it's going to start in 6 months. I don't finish pricing it. I can tell the client this is where it's at right now, but I'm going to give you the price when it actually starts. Obviously, naturally, if we're going to sit here and wait after everything is complete, price could change. It could be to your benefit or mine, right? So I want to be fair with you. And here is your price for right now, but let's revisit in 6 months, see what's changed. Simple. People understand that. You just have to be clear and upfront.
I think that's a huge part of it. And again, one thing that you said that I really liked is you're going to have customers that are your customers. You're going to have other customers that are not your customers. You'll have subs that don't want to do things your way, and that means that they're not your subs. And that's hard in sometimes smaller markets where you don't have as plentiful of selections. But if you can find that sweet spot, man.
So here's something I want to tell you guys. A lot of you guys are struggling with pricing. Maybe another guy beat you with price and another guy did this, and maybe whatever the case is, we always blame price. What it is that your message is not clear, and somewhere along the line, the client wasn't happy enough with what he saw. It's never price. When people tell you it's price, it's their number one excuse. 80% of the time is something else. So I would say market yourself properly, show value online, show what you do, and people will buy from you. Look, I show one number on 10 million. One number on 10 million. And the clients they trust what we're doing and they just sign it. So you gotta change your mindset that, a fixed price, my client's never going to sign it. They want to know. Now, I will say this. If they ever ask, hey, how much was the kitchen? Tell them. But you're not going to break the whole thing down. Hey, what did you pay for that tile? Oh, this much square foot. Well, they don't know how many square feet exactly. They can't figure it out. But you can assist and tell them a few things. But when they start asking too many questions, say, hey, I just want to remind you that, we are a lump sum agreement and we price the job correctly, and the job is this much money to do it and is this much money not to. Simple as that.
Yeah, we have Paul asked a couple questions about your team. He was asking if your site supers are project cost, project managers,
Yeah.
what if they're working on several jobs at once?
Yeah. So it's a great question. And that's where the 2% helps a little bit. Now, I put my guys in for about 60 to 65% of the project because the foremans are not always there. To tell you a bit about my structure, there's me running the company. I don't really work on the job sites. I run the company, I implement systems. Then I have a project manager that handles all the foremen on site. The foremen are not allowed to touch the tools and they're literally managing that site. All right. They get spanked if they touch any tools. And what they're doing, they're part of the job site, and so is the project manager. Now, there's the discussion about project manager. It really depends on what you're saying your project manager does. Mine is on the field managing the foreman, and he's project managing all the jobs. So it is a cost of construction. Okay. There is some project managers that sit at the office and just do the background work. Well, we call that admin, right? So it really depends on the scope of your project manager, right? If your project manager is running two jobs, then do a percentage between the two. Now, some of the jobs that we do, we have an $18 million job. That's a full-time job for a project manager. So we're putting full-time hours for the duration of the project, right? If it's a simple home build, you probably need them 70% of the time. So put 70% of the hours towards that. Example, 2,000 hours per year. If you're going to put him in for 50% only because he's doing two jobs, well, there's only 1,000 hours you allow for,
Mm. Do you have
right?
an estimator?
I do and I don't. So here's how I run my estimates. I do all the construction myself, but then from drywall on, I have what's called a product manager. And that product manager takes care of everything from drywall on. And the role of that project manager, or product, not project, make sure you guys understand that product, not project. They estimate everything from drywall on, and then they're in charge of ordering everything from drywall on. And when it gets to site, they manage the project, make sure they do basically, what do you call it? Inventory, make sure everything is there correctly, it's not broken, and the right quantities are there. And their job is to make sure it gets delivered
Are
on
they
time.
in-house or third party?
No, they're in-house.
Okay.
Yeah. In-house, you got to have your SOPs, guys. I'm telling you, SOPs to your employees. If you build a machine, they'll build your business. If you sub things out, they don't have full focus in your business.
Rick asked, how important is an escalation clause for you in this process?
Escalation of what? Give me an example.
I feel like if something was done wrong, like I don't know, it seems like that's obviously contractual language. So,
Mhm.
like if you had to kind of debate one part of the project, right? So, like if there were some conflicts contractually, maybe. Rick, if you
Well,
want to
there
get
should
further
there
clarification.
shouldn't be there shouldn't be any conflict because the plans tell you what it is. So in your contract, what you're going to put on there is that you're building exactly what's on the plans. And if a client has got an issue with something different, I mean, I would love to hear an example of what he means. But if a client's got something different, it's a change order. A lot of you guys think that a fixed price means that the client's going to change their mind and you have to pay for it. Absolutely not. If you
Oh,
define the scope really good, then nothing changes. You have minimal change orders,
gotcha. I
right?
think he clarified, by the way, He says it's more of the rising in cost, labor, or materials. So is that covered in your 2% or
100%. So it depends on the term of the project. If it's a 1 year project, well, chances are you might give a guy a little raise. So I'll give you an example of my hourly rate for a foreman. I don't, if he gets paid 45 bucks an hour, I don't put 45 bucks an hour. We have to start adding, obviously the burden rate, which is, I'm not sure how a lot of you guys do it in the US, but here we have WCB and all these extra things that we pay for. So it goes up by that. I account their vehicle expense in there, their repairs, their gas, and then there might be a wage increase, right? So you put a small little number per hour for wage increases. It could be this guy, it could be the next guy, but all your employees together have that little number, which is 0.4 of wage increases. And then it all amounts to, if you give a guy a raise, is no problem. Nothing changes.
Hmm. Yeah. So Kia wanted to clarify what you mean, and I kind of think I get what you're saying, but just to give everybody more broadly an idea of when you say drywall on when it comes to your part of the estimating, what do you mean by that?
Right. So I'll be doing like the excavation, basically the real construction stuff like excavation, foundation, formwork, roofing, HVAC, all the electrical scope, insulation, framing, windows, exterior doors, and then drywall on. I mean, like from drywall, the painting gets as part of the product manager, the moldings, the flooring, the tile, the kitchen, the hooks, the bathtubs, all the fixtures, that's part of their scope.
Hmm. Okay, so Joel asked about the fixed price formula. He says, so that replaces a standard markup percentage applied across all items? Question mark.
Yeah, so basically I have a 24% margin, not markup. And that's a huge difference, guys. And remember that your P&L shows you margin, does not show you markup. So don't go look at your P&L, it says 24%, and then put 24% markup. I would literally get rid of markup all day long, just use margin, right? But what it does, it goes across all items. Yes, 100%, including your staff that's on the job site, right?
Hmm.
But that 24% covers your overhead in the office and all your expenses that you all know about, right? Plus your wages of the people that are in the office as well. And this is simple, guys. All you have to do is chat GPT it and say, hey, what does it cost? How much markup should a construction company have in order to run a good business? Go ahead and put it on chat GPT right now, and it'll tell you minimum 25%.
I did have a clarifying question that I wanted to make sure that we got to. So we were talking a little bit about, how you work to get that sort of burdened hourly rate. Jordan was asking about any tips that you might have to properly price hours on scope of work done by your crews when you may not have any previous data, like you don't have it like historical data for jobs like
Ooh,
that to
that, that's a
accurately.
that's a good one because I mean, guys, at the beginning when I first started, you're kind of guessing at that, and you have to really sit down and think about it. But data from the past really helps you understand what it's going to take, right? But I'm going to tell you this. If you have a project manager or a foreman on site, the more they're on site, the better your job will go. Simple as that. So don't try to cheap out on the hours. Make sure you have enough hours for them to spend, because if a job site is not babysat and looked at, and all details looked at daily with the foreman, it's just not going to go great. Especially high-end ones, anyways. A lot of details.
Yeah. Do you use Chat GPT for things like that ever?
Not to get my hours. I use data of my own. And
Yeah, that's
unfortunately,
good.
if you're just starting out, then you're brand new, so you have to figure it out. Or, hey, listen, reach out. I can help. You know, let's go through your stuff. Let's see where your staff is. Let's see what your build is. Talk to other builders, right? Talking to other builders that are going to be helpful is key. If you're just starting out, you don't know how much hours you're supposed to put on there. Do a lot of research and try to do your best.
What do you provide the bank if the bank requires for customer financing for you to give them a budget? What are you providing them with?
That's a great question because sometimes very rarely, because our clients don't have banks, They just pay for the project. Number one, it's not my responsibility what the bank wants. And if the bank says, give me a breakdown, I say to them, we're a fixed price. Here's the number. And when you go and explain this to the bank of how you've estimated, they go, wow, this is amazing. So this is not going to go over. Not unless they change something. This is exactly what we wanted.
Mm.
But at first, because everyone's cost plus, they're used to asking you for that breakdown. Listen, ask yourself this question. What the hell does the banker know about the breakdown of a cost? Do they know? Like, why are you giving them a breakdown? What do they know? Think about that. Does the banker
Yeah.
know how to price a job? What are they looking at? They're just satisfying paperwork that their manager wants,
Yep. That bottom line.
right?
Um, Absolutely. It's interesting. Kevin was asking a little bit as you were showing around your budget. Knowing that a lot of your change orders, you talked about them being kind of earlier in the project. If your numbers vary, where does that variance come from your original budget with, kind of, I'll just ask it his ways. Curious why most of the budget numbers you showed vary from the original budget carried, even with the pricing sheet. Change orders along the way, question mark?
Yeah, so some of the stuff, guys, you're gonna make mistakes. So some of them change orders don't vary. So okay, here's where we see budget overages. And I'm gonna tell you, if your staff did not create a change order and told the trade to do something, they screwed up. Now you got to eat it because on a fixed price, you're not going to go to your client and say, you owe me this much, even though we finished the work. The contract says that we have to provide a change order before we do the work. And if your foreman fails to do that, which has happened, that's going to put you over budget because we're not going to go to the client and tell them you owe us this money now. You can try, but they can easily say no, right? So that's number one. Number two, you're going to miss stuff. So if you miss stuff, well, you got your 2%. But look at my number, right? I started at 24% and I'm at 23.64. I haven't even touched like a third of my 2%, right?
Mhm.
And there's nothing there that's padded. It's all like literally, Casey, you can go into my JobTread. You got access to it. You can see everything is great
Yeah,
takeoff,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And guys, I know this is a lot of work at the beginning, but trust me, do the work at the beginning. Your construction is faster, your profit's bigger. Or be lazy, don't do it, and then your construction will drag on like crazy, like most of you guys here know.
And then you'll just reach out to Felipe later and say, help. Why didn't I listen to your webinar?
Like, listen,
Um,
this is how people buy every day. Why are we trying to make contractors, literally expose every number? And it's not like you're hiding something. You're running a business, and no business will survive at a 10%. So if a client's expecting you to charge 10% and that covers your overhead, your profit, and your wages, bro, you're gonna die a slow death, and you're just gonna your business is gonna go bankrupt. That's why
mm.
it's so like construction is so high on failure rate because guys are copying each other's markup and they don't know their numbers. Know your numbers is number one.
So Justin, in light of that, said 15% margin is a pretty good standard for new construction, would you say?
No, not at all. That's way too low, number one. Number two, on average, that's not happening. Casey, you guys probably have, you can see the companies that you have in your system. You have a lot of data, and Casey will probably tell you that 15% is either a fake number to show the client if you're doing a cost plus, you're trying to make sure that it looks like you're not charging a lot, but they mark up the whole construction side to make the
Mm.
rest of it up to make that 24%, or the guys that are only charging 15% are really struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was a project manager. My boss, he tried to find a lot of clever ways of making up money and lost himself a lot of customers that would have probably used him in the future because of the lack of transparency there.
100%. You know what's transparent? A lot of guys say cost plus is transparency. We show them every invoice. That's not transparency. That's you passing the buck to the client. And it's cost plus because you don't really want to figure it out. And whatever the cost is, and you're not willing to take responsibility for it. That's what that cost plus is. Taking responsibility and being transparent is telling the client exactly what that job's going to cost them if they don't change anything. That's transparency. They don't need to know the whole internal stuff and what it takes to run a business and what things cost. They don't care. You're actually boggling them down with information they know nothing about.
So one quick sort of mechanic question when it comes to your proposals, and then another question that I want to ask you off of our Q&As. But Sarah, just really quickly, where are you putting all of your scope of work on your proposals to your customers, or even to your your price requests?
Great question. There's no scope of work on my proposals to my client. The scope of work is on the plans. We're all writing a scope of work, but listen, guys, like I showed you, if you have a good architect and the architect tells you what to use on the project, what type of concrete, what type of plywood, what type of framing, what type of roofing, what type of stuff, why do I need to spell it out? It's on the plans. The plans always win. And if you have a good interior designer that gives you a full spec sheet and full elevations of the interior design, what am I spelling out? Why am I writing a story that the client probably will never read? Are they going to read is the contract, and they're going to read the final number? And if they say, well, what does this include? It's all here on the plans. So why are we writing these huge scopes of work for the client?
Yeah. No, I agree.
It's all in the plans. You don't have to. You're just creating more work.
So you showed some stuff that you put into ChatGPT. Was that in your vendor-facing documents?
So that's for trades, not for clients. So for trades, you want to be specific as to what you want them to price and let them know that the plans always win. Doesn't matter what I give you for scope, and doesn't matter what they write on their estimate. We go back to the plan, and if it's there, it's part of your scope of work, then it's on you.
So that's important because a lot of people did ask about, how you got that from Chat GPT, or you did all that sort of stuff. Like, how do you know? And at the end of the day, if you have that caveat that, hey, we're always going to
listen, I didn't tell ChatGPT just to look at it. Number one, I upload the plans.
Yep.
Okay. So it can read the plans, number one. Number two, I use Whisper. Have you guys heard of that app, Whisper? It's really cool. You press the function button on your computer, just talk to it. Okay. You just talk to it and say, hey, this is what I want for the scope of work. I want to make sure that they clean up. I want to make sure that everything in the plumbing is included, blah, blah, blah. And you're telling ChatGPT what to say, and it spits it out. ChatGPT is not deciding what my guy is going to do. I'm telling it what to do. It's just writing it out correctly for me. And then obviously you got to review it. Don't just trust it, copy, paste it, and send it.
Yeah, we have a lot of people getting into AI, a lot of people asking questions about AI.
Yeah.
And the response we always give is you've got to know if what you're looking at is correct or not. So that takes the skill that only you'll be able to have through experience in your own education and knowledge. It's interesting. One thing that we haven't really talked about, and I know this is like kind of up your alley as someone who's really kind of killed it in your own marketing, but how important for you is the sales process in helping clients accept your fixed price process in terms of pre-selling and marketing?
So guys, that's the number one thing. There's two things that are going to close the deal, and it's not your work and it's not your quote. And I'm going to give it away. Number one, being an authority on social media, trying to do your best to educate, give it all away, and show people what you do and how you do it is how people are going to trust you. Number two, through our program, we teach a rocket sales system, which essentially is how to sell to clients using your ears, not your mouth. And that is huge. A lot of you guys are selling yourselves to clients. We're the best because of this. We're the best because of that, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't work. Just so you understand, when a client comes to see you, they've already researched the crap out of you. You don't have to sell yourself. So if everything online aligns correctly, your reviews, your information, what you sell, how you do it, then you don't have to sell yourself. All you got to do is when the client comes in, ask them the key questions. Be a doctor. Remember this. When you go to the doctor, you don't go into the doctor's office and ask him if he's qualified to even diagnose what's wrong with you. You say, hey, doc, I got a problem. Doctor says, hey, what do you got? It hurts here. My elbow is this. Oh, is it right here? Yep. Ow, that hurts. Cool. I know what that is. Here's the prescription. They have a problem, and that's building a house, and you have the solution. So ask the right questions to make sure you make them feel understood. And if they felt like you understood them, they're gonna feel comfortable. They're gonna buy from you. People buy from people they trust and like. Remember that. It's not how much you pound your chest and how good you cut that plywood or how awesome you are at putting something together. Trust me when I tell you, a lot of clients don't give a shit. Sorry about that.
All right, we'll bleep it out. We'll actually put a big
There
cartoon
you
X over
go.
your mouth. No, it's interesting, Felipe. Like one of my favorite pro spotlights from last year. You guys can go back and look at it. But Dan Lee, he's out of Austin. He talked a lot about how he was losing jobs to other contractors, and he would go to trade shows and he would see people that didn't do better work than him just always win the jobs. And he
Yeah,
said it came down to marketing. He said at the end of the day, he really invested in marketing. He got camera guys to come out to the sites. He did a lot of stuff. I won't go too much into it. But he said it drastically changed their business. All of a sudden, people were really interested because he was presenting himself and his business in a way that was compelling. Like their Instagram
yeah,
presence, their website, they just really elevated their proposals. He was using like Fiverr for a lot of, really cool renderings of spaces and stuff based on jobs that they had done. Not even real pictures of the spaces, but just renderings that looked real, and it was
yeah.
amazing, the perception
Hey,
change.
here's some. I'm going to teach you a little sales thing since we're here, and I love to help these guys sell more and close more jobs. If you get on your social media, okay, and you get new followers, you can use ManyChat to reach out to them as they follow you. And you just have to ask a simple question. Hey, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Just curious. Are you here for the content or are you looking to build a house? Now, why that is key. All of you guys that have an Instagram account, you're not saying hello to your client when they come through the door. Imagine having a store, somebody walks right in and you ignore them. They might say, no, just browsing, cool. Or they might say, yeah, actually, I'm looking for this. Now, the opportunity that you're missing through your socials is crazy. It is crazy. If you're not using social, leveraging it like that, this is why you create content. And this is why you teach in your content. You don't just show your work. You teach, you become an authority, people follow you, they want to learn, and then eventually they buy from you.
Mm.
Google is dead, trust me.
I love that. So I've got a couple of like inner JobTread questions. Are you using JobTread for your specs for your vendors?
I don't use specs. The
Okay.
specs are on the sheet from the designer.
Okay. Sarah and Nicholas both asked about your pre-construction process. Sarah asked what it was, and then Nicholas said, will you have your development permits submitted while you go through the pre-construction process so that once you have approval on the fixed price, you can go straight into that BP stage?
100%. That's a great question. So number one, I take my client, like I said, I pick him up before architectural plans, right? I help the client go through the architectural. Once the architecturals are signed off, I send everything to the engineers and all the, energy efficiency. I mean, everybody's got different things in different countries, but that's how we do it here. And then once I have that package, I submit it to the city while interior design starts. All right. So it takes 6 months here to a year to get permits sometimes. So 6 months is enough to get your interior design done. And the hope is that by the time you get permits, the price is done. So you're ready to go. If you got a permit, boom, price is done, and you sign off on it, and you can start the project.
Yeah, and I love it. I cannot recommend enough coaching when you have the opportunity, especially from somebody like Felipe, who's obviously, worked through this process, developed a great system. He talked about how he's really into systems. Like that's what you guys all need. There's going to be nuances that are different from builder to builder, your market, a lot of different things. but the systems will translate. And so where you can
Yeah, I
find the
mean,
code, you can use it.
we're teaching how to do SOPs. We're actually going to be putting together a package for a full construction SOP that you'll be able to download in our coaching, just so you guys know,
I love
which it
that.
took us like 7 months to put together correctly, right? It'll give you the whole playbook on how to run a construction company. That's number one. Number two, I don't just coach guys, I'm doing what you're doing. So I'm doing essentially teaching you everything that's working for me. And number three, never hire a coach that doesn't have a coach. I pay $150,000 a year to my coach to be able to learn all the things I need to know to be able to pass it on to my guys.
Mm. I love that. Hey, real quick, I know you just got off your job tread, but Jordan asked if you could go through the percentage toggle option on your QuickBooks on the P&L. I don't know if you want to do that.
Yeah, that's a little
I
ask your
thought
accountant.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Love it. Okay,
You
so
know, I
Brad,
mean it's you can chat GPT that, right?
you can.
Yeah, simple.
Absolutely. Brad said, so we don't price per month for overhead. We look at our projected overhead percentage for the year and then add in our profit. He said, for example, January is super high for us as our insurance comes out that month. Business, vehicles, and a lot of other little items. Is that essentially what you mean by per month? Or are you just doing it based off of what your overhead was last month?
No, so I okay, for example, let's say last month my overhead was 13.7%, right? And for some reason we had to hire a new guy, we bought a new vehicle and there's more payments. Yeah, and then that whole P&L gets adjusted and now this month is 14%, right? So now you are pricing to make sure you're taking care of your actual overhead for that moment, right? So if my whole overhead is sitting at 14%, I'm going to add 14% to the job. Does that make sense? So
Yep.
that's why you never just, a lot of guys are always using cost plus 10, cost plus 15, cost, it
Right.
actually it varies every single time you price a job, or it should, unless you're staying still and not growing.
Yeah, that's true. Rick is about to get out of here. He's asked a lot of great questions. Before he gets out of here, he asked what the average sales cycle length was for you.
What's the average sales cycle?
Uh-huh.
In what sense? Like how long does it take me to close a job?
Yeah, maybe from the initial lead through.
Okay, so here's the thing. Number one, the sales cycle, there's two revenue streams. There's a pre-construction, which is that deposit. So it starts right away. We're getting 100 grand immediately. So that money stays with us whether they go with us or not. So that's part of sales, and then there's the construction side. There's projects that take us 6 months to get going on, but we had that retainer at the beginning. And there's
Mhm.
projects that take us a year and a half to get going on. But the ones that are a year and a half are usually bigger, like 10, 12, $13 million jobs. Those are going to take longer. Then that retainer agreement is a lot bigger. Just so you guys know, the retainer agreement is 2.5% of their project, minimum 60,000. On average, anywhere between 100 and 120,000. And
Love
you
it.
should be collecting that. Do not work with a client unless they're committed, right? If they're
Mhm.
just stringing you along and want pricing and want this, you are crazy. They're stealing your years of knowledge to compare it to somebody else.
Absolutely. We're almost there, man. You've had a lot of questions. We've had 43 questions, which is awesome.
No worries.
Okay, we have a couple of sort of like specialty trades here, landscaping and plumbing.
Yep.
Vance said, "Do you have any suggestions for me when trying to win plumbing bids for new builders that he is trying to work with?" And then Jason said, how do you price landscaping? Does it have its own design, I guess, in your process? So a couple of
Yep.
different specialty trades, but I'll let you handle both those.
All right. So here's the deal, guys. Winning bids. I want you guys to get that out of your head, because if you're trying to win a bid, you don't have the right clients. Okay. I'll give you an example. Last Friday, I did what's called Breaking Bread. It's an event that I do quarterly. And what I do is I invite the top tier architects, designers, and realtors out for dinner. I pay for it myself. I don't talk about business and we just hang out. If you create your own circle, all right, they're going to hire you. If you're trying to fit into somebody else's circle and go bid somewhere else, they're going to bid you up or use you to make sure that the guy that's in their circle already is being honest about his price. So price is not a thing, guys. Is create relationships. Don't go bid. That's just like if somebody says, "Hey, I got 3 contractors I want a price," I say, "Hey, go deal with the other 2. Let me know if you need my help after."
Mhm.
Simple
That's
as that.
good. I love that. I love that you're
Like,
developing
like
that community.
why are you like if I'm building a house for you, like we got to hang out for 3 years, bro. Like this is not about the price or 2 years or 1 year, whatever the case, or even six
Mhm.
months. It's a relationship, and you're going after price. No, thank you. Right?
Absolutely. No, I love that, man. And I think, again, like developing a relationship with your customers, that's also, again, if you're, especially if you're working at the level that you're doing those jobs, like word of mouth and the experience is going to be huge.
100%. Guys, content, content, content. People buy from people they like and trust. And if you're not showing up on social media, they're not going to get to know you. And if they don't know you, they don't buy from you. Think about that.
Absolutely.
Stop
Absolutely.
thinking to yourself that it's price. It's not price. It's not quality, although you have to have quality, but it's not price. It's not quality. It's trust.
Do you want to read Martin's question? Because I could read it, but I want to make sure that you get, it's like kind of lengthy. So I think he's just asking about process, like order of things, how
So
everything works.
let's see where I only see the chat here.
Okay, so if you open the Q&A, you may have a more button on your, um, it
Yeah,
should be down
Q&A.
at the bottom.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Martin, let's see. As an educational session was, I think there is maybe a disconnect about actual contractual process. What I'm understanding, secure the client with zero contract. With $0 contract? No, not at all. You have to talk to your client and put him through the sales process, which is ask him the questions, understand if it's the right client for you and if it's a fit, and then you ask him, hey, how do you want to proceed? Well, what's your next step? Well, here is a retainer agreement. You sign a retainer agreement, and then you go through the design process. You don't do the design process for $0. The way that I do it, and it works very well for me, is I take a retainer and that retainer stays with me at all times. I help the client go through the whole pre-construction process. The client still pays the architect, the designer, and all the city fees themselves, right? I'm just facilitating them, doing the work for them, putting them, joining the meetings, putting them through the process, sending stuff to the engineers, getting things done for them, right? And if they walk away, we still get paid because we got the retainer. If they move forward, you add that to your fixed price contract. So as a credit, but in your fixed price contract, you want to make sure you're tracking your hours of pre-construction. So you always get paid for it. All right. So secure with zero, nope. Go through the design process with architect, designer, client paid. That's again, I covered that. The client pays them, you have their retainer. Once the
Mhm.
design is finished, get total cost approved, 100%. Yes, once the design is finished, you want to sign off your estimate. So it triggers it on JobTread and you can get going. How do you handle allowances, optionals? Okay. So allowances, you handle them, you can print out. Number one, you want to minimize them. You don't want allowances. But if you have some, just put on there how much you're allowing per and whatever the square foot of price for that is. And you just have them on a little piece of paper. So if your contract, you're missing your tile and your vanities, well, put an allowance for those too. But you're not showing every single line item. Does that make sense?
Does. It does. I think that's clear too with your what your process is. I think that's helpful. Um, let's see. So William was asking about that retainer that you have at the beginning, that $100,000. He said, is that related to the potential cost of the job in the form of a percentage, or just regardless, if they've started this
Yep.
process, you're collecting a retainer,
Great.
and then let's say they stop work or they say
Yeah,
no.
great question. So I remember I said it's 2.5% of the potential cost of the work, right? So if it's 2.5% of the potential cost of the work, let's call it $1 million, 25 grand. But I don't do 25 grand because that's too little to cover my cost for 6 months of stuff. I do minimum 60 grand. So 60 grand minimum until it starts to go over the threshold, you start using a 2.5%, depending on the cost of the job.
Nice. Okay. So Paul said, do you want to talk about APB? I've seen that you were a member there.
Okay. APB, I created my coaching program because of APB. Because when I was with APB, I felt like most of the guys that were teaching there, they never stepped foot in the job site. They were teaching out of templates. And whenever I asked a question, I could tell that they didn't have the answer to it. Their marketing was archaic. They're still trying to get you to count your leads that come in from Google. They're not teaching you about social media very well, and as a matter of fact, they don't do it very well. So if you don't have proof of somebody that's teaching you how to do marketing properly, and they're not doing it properly themselves, why are you learning from them? And this is why, me as a builder, I feel like I am doing most of the things pretty damn good. I'm not perfect, but at least I'm able to share that with my guys, especially the guys that need it, and elevate them. I am doing the thing. It is proven that it works through me doing it. My social media is working really well, which has created a ton of other avenues. Just so you guys know, aside from my construction, I've generated almost $500,000 in 6 months using social media, and it has nothing to do with construction. Right? So let that sink in. Get on your social media, right? And in my coaching, I show you guys how I do it. Right? So
I think
APB, listen, you'll learn some stuff. You'll learn about the fixed price. You'll learn some kind of basics. But what I notice is they want you to do a lot. And they've created this course just to say they got all these things that you have to fill out, which it makes it look like a course. But if you're a contractor, you're busy. You want to know, what do I need right now? What do I need to do? Let's go. Let's figure it out, hammer it out, and I'm going to go do it. I don't need to fill out these forms. I don't need to go, listen to you and tell me how to do a WIPA calculator that I have to fill out every month when we have technology to do that. You get Metricool and you can get all your analytics. So why is APB making you fill out every single line item of how many leads you have? It's archaic.
just reach
right?
out to Felipe.
Yeah. Listen, I
Hello.
learned a little bit, but I'm telling you, their course is like $3,000 a month. They show up, you go only once a month. $3,000 a month, once a month. Mine is $9,000 USD for the year. I meet you every single week. And I hammer this out with you. And whatever your problem is, because everybody has, a different thing, a different problem or a different scenario. So I can't teach the same thing to everybody because not everybody needs the same thing.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Well, hey, listen, we do have a couple other questions, but I want to be respectful of your time.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. I'm here to help, man.
Okay, awesome. So Rohit had a question, and again, I think we kind of cycle back through some of these things. So just to restate it, if you want to, he said, say for example, your current overhead percentage is 14%, and it takes 6 months to price the project, which might be different for you. But if your overhead percentage increases during that period, do you update it accordingly prior to giving the final price to your client?
That's a good question. Rohit's actually one of my students,
Love it.
and actually Rohit, you don't put the percentage until the end. So if it's taking you 6 months to price a project, once your project is priced, then you put your markup on it. You don't start adding the markup at the beginning. You just price the job. When it's ready to get signed, you put your markup on it and get it signed.
So Faye had a question about, and she kind of referenced the experience of going to a car dealership and that, when you look at the pricing sheet for a car, it's showing you all the options in the car dealership, right? And she said, I feel like breaking down my proposals by grouping several CSI codes. Example, finish one price. If it includes drywall, paintwork, trim, tiles, appearance, install, etc., That way that they can browse several high level numbers. If it's just a single number at the bottom, it kills the curious mind of the readers. And so I think she's trying to figure out whether or not giving that is better or giving it is the way
I
to go.
mean,
So,
listen, when you start to even go high level pricing, they start to question it. So when you start to break it down, you're giving them something to talk about, right?
mm,
What I do with a fixed price, I show the design price. And then actually, I forgot to tell you guys that I do two other prices. So it's kind of like A, B, or C. C being the final price of what you design, B being what I think you can take out and you're not going to notice and you'll save this much money. And then C, if it's too much money, here's where you need to re-meet your allowances at because everything is a little too high, right?
mm,
Now, guys,
great.
if you show numbers, it just opens up for questions that if they ask enough questions, they're going to start to pressure you to show them more, right? But trust me, market yourself as a lump sum fixed price. Is that what you want to do? And the more you market yourself, you put it on your website, you put it on your Instagram, and when they come in, they don't ask you any questions. They know that's what you do.
Mm. I love that. All right. We've got one last question. I think this is really great. This might even be a great way for you to kind of throw it to how they could get in touch with you or maybe follow up for your services. But Sarah said, do you offer coaching for remodeling companies? And if not, do you have any suggestions?
So 100%. So what we teach is business, guys. We don't teach you how to build or how to renovate. So the fundamentals of business is pretty much across the board. So because I'm a builder, I have a lot of builders and renovators. So in my group, I have a website guy, I have an automation agency, I have painters, I have drywallers, I have framers, builders, renovators, and some of them are on this chat right now. Um, and what I have to tell you is that the business side of things that we teach are no different for any business. Literally, a lawyer could come and learn how to run their business in this group, right? But obviously, there's not going to be many lawyer questions because we don't know law and we don't teach law and we don't teach construction. We teach business, how to run
Mm,
your company properly, how to run your numbers, how to sell properly, how to market properly, and how to implement the systems you need. And we also teach mindset, which is huge because if we're helping you grow, you're going to get busier and you have to have a mindset of a leader, not of a business owner or a trade.
mm. That's awesome. Well, hey, so do you have a link or somewhere like where could they go to find you if they wanted to start using your services?
Well, number one, you can hit me up on my Instagram, felipe.freig. Number two, you can go to the versamethod.com. You can find it there. And I did have a QR code on here. But I'm not going to mess around with that now because, we had a couple technical issues, you know? And, but if you guys want coaching, I'm telling you, it's the best money you'll ever spend. I get coaching and it has turned my world around.
Did I get that right? Your handle right there?
Yep, you got it. That's Instagram.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
And
Okay.
then not
Awesome.
not the Versa Method, versamethod.com.
Let's delete that. Method.com. There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
Awesome.
And
Well,
if you
this has
guys need
been
my help,
great.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. Felipe, this
Well,
has been great. Man, you have I feel like opened a lot of people's minds up and I think maybe given them some decisions to make and maybe some coaching calls to schedule as well.
yeah, listen, I mean, it's not about the coaching calls. I love coaching. I don't make my money coaching. Obviously, we have to cover expenses. I
Mhm.
truly love helping people and making sure that they thrive. And I want to make this whole construction industry better and fair and profitable. We cannot be treated like slaves. We cannot
Mm.
get paid like slaves. We are business owners like anybody else. And when you run a business, you should run it to make a profit. And I'm here to help you do that.
Absolutely. I love that. And what other contractor slash coach are you going to get that's going to be able to play you a song that you might have heard out on tour at a major concert as well? That's pretty awesome. I love that. As a musician myself, I appreciated that part of your story. I also used to travel in a band. So
Yeah, no,
uh,
I did it. It was fun. Came back broke, but it was a good thing, right?
you came back rich in memories and experience is what
Oh, awesome.
what I would
Yeah.
say. Love it. All right. Well, thank you guys, everybody, for being here. Felipe, thank you again so much for being here, being willing to share. I want to encourage you guys to continue to learn from one another, to continue to reach out for resourcing if you need coaches to help you. That's what guys like Felipe are here for. But again, he's given so much here to consider. So if you need to go back, we will post this tomorrow for you to be able to watch again on our Facebook group, on our YouTube channel, and then in the help desk as well. So make sure that you're going back and watching it again. If you have any more, things that you need to process through, go back and watch this again. But also make sure you're coming back in 2 weeks, because we continue to do these to give other people like Felipe and our other customers the opportunity to share some things that they've learned, so that you can really grow and learn from those. Steve, you're going to be able to watch on YouTube tomorrow. We'll also post it in the JobTread Pros Facebook group tomorrow as well, a link to this presentation, and then in the help desk as well in your JobTread app. Okay? All right,
Awesome,
everybody.
guys. Hey, I really appreciate you guys. Good luck with your business.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Take care.